You can think of the configuration for an app as being a bit like the layers of an onion. There are a lot of them, and you have to peel back each one in order to get to the central core of what it is you're trying to do. So let's actually start with the very core of that, the very center of exactly what it is we're attempting to enforce on all the clients that will participate in our NAP infrastructure. I'm back here on the machine nps.company.pri. This is our network policy server we've been dealing with throughout this course. And it's here where we want to take a look at our network policy server console back here, where we're going to make use of the existing configuration, or at least some of that existing configuration, for putting together this NAP enforcement, especially on the VPN side. Now, one of the first things that we want to do here actually drills down into the network access protection component of NPS. NPS does not necessarily require you to focus it towards just your VPN clients. In fact, NPS has a variety of different ways in which you can figure out exactly where you want to provide that enforcement. One such way is indeed limiting clients as they attempt to connect in through a VPN connection. Another is trying to ensure that before they get that DHCP address, or before they get that 802.11x wired or wireless network port, that indeed the client meets whatever configuration you've set up. But indifferent of where you want to apply the enforcement, the core of NAP itself happens right down here with these system health validators, of which there is just a single one that's available right out of the box. That's the Windows Security Health Validator. Microsoft designed NAP to be very extensible in that third parties and people willing to encode them could go about creating additional system health validators up here if they should so choose. The issue in the real world, however, is that in most situations, most companies did not end up creating any kind of SHVs to be used. And so the only SHV that you really can find in a lot of situations is this Windows Security Health Validator provided for by Microsoft. And as you'll see here under settings, there really aren't that many settings that you can incorporate towards determining what is considered healthy versus what isn't. If I take a look here at the default configuration, you'll notice that there actually isn't all that much here to see. A system that we consider to be healthy needs to meet the following conditions: that the firewall is enabled for all network connections, that an antivirus application is on and up to date, that an anti-spyware application is on and up to date, and then down here that automatic updating is enabled, and potentially that clients must have the necessary security updates for them to access your internal infrastructure. So this can seem at the same time like a lot, but also not a lot. If you think about just the variety of different network updates or Windows updates that could be required, or what makes the difference between a client that has its anti-spyware up to date versus one that doesn't. And so for that reasons, the SHV just was really not granular enough, I think, for most enterprises to feel comfortable in implementing. Now, for our purposes here, let's actually set up this SHV and do so in a very simplistic way so that we can see what Microsoft intended in the creation of this technology. Let's go through here and eliminate all the really nonsensical ones here for antivirus and spyware. Not that they're nonsensical because they're unnecessary, but they're just a little bit more difficult at this very coarse level to really apply in a very dynamic environment. Let's also remove that automatic update is enabled as well, so that we can just limit things down here to whether or not the firewall is turned on. This will give us a good feel by just disabling the firewall for knowing if that client gets yanked out of the production network and stuck into that remediation network instead. This is pretty much all we need to know for configuring the Security Health Validator. Now you may be wondering, okay, well, where is this actually configured on the client side? We'll get to that here in just a minute, but if you've ever played around with some of the action settings or some of the security settings there in the Security Center of the Windows Desktop OS, you've probably seen some of these elements that sometimes light up if you don't have an anti-spyware or an antivirus solution that's been installed onto your machine. It's exactly there where your users can go to find out what the status is of these requirements that are based here off of the characteristics you've built into your Windows SHV.